have gone through a lot of ups and downs with epilepsy since Michelle was 7 months of age.
I'm very proud of my son and where he is today and how we got there.
I'm wanting to share what we went through in hopes that it might help other people in some way.
You're thrown into situations that you are completely unprepared for.
It was very scary the first time she had a seizure.
For years, I felt like I didn't have anybody. Nobody could understand what I was going through.
Bill is a wonderful, wonderful father and a wonderful son-in-law. And I always say that to Mary, you've got a good husband.
Me and my dad are close. We cook together and play catch or frisbee or stuff like that.
I have always wanted to be a mom and have children. And I stayed out of work for that reason, to be able to be home when the kids got home and just be there for them.
I'm really close to my mom. We've definitely been through a lot together. I was 7 when I started having seizures and I was diagnosed. I was in kindergarten. At those times I was having about like 50 seizures a day, including sleeping. My mom or dad would have to sit by the bed with a little red button when I was asleep, and they would just have to push it every time I had a seizure just to document it.
We would switch nights sleeping with him, so you missed a night of sleep every other night. So fundamentally, we were exhausted.
You hear your kid going, "Ma," and you're like, he's having one. So you get out of bed and you go to his bed and you rub and you just stay with him until it passes.
When I first saw him have a seizure, it was scary. It was really scary for me. I didn't understand it at all. And the first thing I thought was, like, is this, like, contagious? Or am I, like, does it run in the family now?
We know it was tough on Allie, although she was very kind of quiet about it, but she was very young.
She had her friends, and we tried to do the best we could to give her the attention and let her know that it's going to be okay, that things are going to be okay. But meanwhile, you know, she would see her brother having a seizure on the kitchen floor.
I don't know if I would call it, like, jealous. I was just kind of, I guess, wanting more attention.
They didn't want to do brain surgery because of the area that the brain that it was in was so he would have lost control if they had gone in the area that would his right side. And it got to the point that when Pat was 6 years old, he just said, you know, I do not want to have another seizure, and if it means that I can't use my arm, I'd rather take that chance.
Even at, like, the worst of times, he was always so brave, even for, like, the family. When he was supposed to be the one that was scared, we were all more scared than he was.
I was seizure-free for 5 years until last summer, which was when they took me off my medication.
Then all of a sudden, he got them back. And at first he didn't tell his parents, but then he told his mother that he was getting them back, so he had to go back into the hospital.
It was such a letdown.
It was
such, we thought we were done, and it was just a gut kick, you know, you just, here we go again. So, you know, next thing you know, I'm on the phone with her, and I'm in a car and on the way back home and meeting her at Children's Hospital at midnight.
Because they were just continuing.
And we had like, no meds. Here we go again.
When I came home, I thought Pat was going to be really upset, and I looked at him and he was just like, hey. And it's when I started crying that he started crying.
When he was little, we saw everything that happened. Now that he's a teenager, he's out and on his own. He's in different places. He's in more dangerous places. Mountain biking.
He wants to fly out of airplanes.
He's just a normal teenage boy. He wants to do some things that are dangerous even without seizures going on. So, you know, we have less control over the situations he puts himself in. And we just got to hope that we've impressed upon him you know, that he's got to be a little cautious given what he's dealing with.
Letting go sounds so simple in words, but it's really not. And you can't just all of a sudden, boom, let go, where you've been micromanaging your child's life.
Through the years, by him telling me, you know, let go, I've let go. It's been very hard. He's already 26 years old.
Once they're controlled on the meds, the only thing you can do is just, that's it.
It can't just magically happen when they're 18 or when they're 21 or 25. It's a process.
Because you always ask me, are you taking your meds? I'm like, yes, I'm taking my meds. I'm sorry. I'm taking my meds. Did you call?
Where are you going? Call me when you get there. Call me 15 minutes when you're there. Call me in the middle of when you're there.
Sometimes I just tell her that she needs to think a little more positively. If not, with some things, she's not ever gonna quit worrying.
It's been good for me and for him. I mean, I have a life of my own now because I have let go. And he says, Mom, whatever's gonna happen, it's gonna happen whether you're here and there, and I have to live.
If he wants to jump out of an airplane, well, you know, have a parachute on you and go ahead.
Even though you're scared to death, and she's grinning like a fool here because it is hard. It is very hard to do this, to step back and say, okay, I'm not going to micromanage every aspect.
He came home one night and he had been out and he was going to somebody's house. And I just kind of looked at Wayne. I says, if he stays out till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, he's going to have one. Kathy, he's 29 years old. He will be fine.
I tried to give up asking her if she took her meds. I couldn't even make it a day. Couldn't even make it 24 hours. It's people's reaction, which is the hardest thing that can make life so difficult for the person living with epilepsy.
A lot of people have no idea what epilepsy is. They have no idea what a seizure is itself. They just don't know.
They would just fire off, like rapid fire. Like, my finger would want to move left, right, up, down, left, right, up, down, left, right, up, down, like constantly. And that would happen to my whole body.
I didn't know how naive I was until I had epilepsy myself.
Try to teach people around you about epilepsy. Make them aware of what epilepsy is.
One thing that we have to tell people is that epilepsy is not a disease, it's a condition. You can't, if I touch you, you're not going to get it.
You have to change it one person at a time to let them know what's real and what's not.
It's really smart to put it on the table, so to take away a lot of the stigma.
The hardest thing is educating everybody else around him, including family.
I have never seen Oprah Winfrey or anybody talk about epilepsy. They talk about all kinds of things.
How come there aren't any commercials about epilepsy? And you know what? It's a good point. It's a perfectly fair point. You know, why aren't people talking about epilepsy?
I've been tempted to write to people or to call some of these people and say, hey, what about making a show on epilepsy?
Well, I was real young when I became a mom. From there on, I just... I love kids to start off with, so I guess that's why I had 4 kids.
It's fun most of the time because it's just 4 girls living there and we're either arguing or laughing, so it's one or the other all the time. It's only quiet when everybody's asleep.
My mom had to work all the time, so... As a matter of fact, my mom had 2 jobs. I think that there was a cycle, I think, sometimes that I'm going to end up like my mom. She had to work 2 jobs to pay off the house.
It was real hard for my mom to be a single parent and to do all the bills and to take care of her kids by herself. And without my father, it's like she's my father too. She's very independent. She's the independent woman.
I work 40 hours in one job. I come home, rush, drop off the baby. I make sure they have something to eat. If they don't, either I go to the groceries at midnight after I get off my second job. I'll go to the groceries, or I get them something to eat, or I leave them money, order the pizza, I'll leave, or go get them chicken, come back. My life right now is in a time schedule all the time.
Patricia and my brother, they're divorced. but we never divorced Patricia and the girls. They've always been with us, always, always.
My MRG, she's very creative. She's nice. And she's fun to be with.
I guess since she was little, I've always kept an eye on Roxanne. She was in her freshman year in high school. And they'd always send her home because she was getting sick, but this was before she was diagnosed.
Off and on, I had to be missing work or doing this or go picking up from school. She missed a lot of school.
A couple of doctors said that I didn't have epilepsy, which I did. And they were just telling me that I had headaches and I was gonna go deaf.
She would have off and on seizures at night. I would sleep with her some of the times.
It took them a long time to diagnose her, and I knew she was embarrassed.
Yeah, people actually thought I was ignoring them when I was like, I didn't hear them or anything. Like, we'll be eating, and first we didn't know, she'll be like, huh? And we're all like, I said the whole story to her. I had to repeat everything to her, and after a while, I told Mom, I think we honestly thought she was going deaf. In class, my science teacher, one of my science teachers when I was in 8th grade, I would listen to him, I would be listening to him fine, and I'll look at him, and then all of a sudden I wouldn't hear him. I'll miss the whole lesson. I saw her very first seizure. We were at my aunt's house, and we were making burgers because we had just came from swimming.
And I asked her, Roxanne, are you hungry? And she didn't answer me. And all of a sudden, she fell.
I just heard a big thud on the floor, and when I turned around, she was on the floor, and I got real scared because I didn't know what happened.
If I hadn't gone through my epilepsy, if I didn't know what epilepsy was, when Roxanne had her first seizure, I would have panicked. I wouldn't have known what to do.
Then Margie called me that she had a seizure, and I said, what are you talking about? That time I rushed to her apartment. I picked up Roxanne and I rushed her to the hospital.
It scared me to see it, for me to see it. I had experienced it, but I had never seen it.
They took out blood. They didn't see nothing wrong with her or nothing. So I took her to the doctor, and they told me she had an ear infection.
I told her, take her to the Epilepsy Foundation. And she did. I'm glad she did, because they're the ones that diagnosed her.
Even though I have epilepsy, I'm still going to do whatever it takes to achieve my goals. My mom inspired me by telling me I could do it.
I just have to be strong for her and for all of us, because we're all girls. I see my daughter, and I have to be strong for her.
She's always there for us. She's our everything.
Roxanne's not the only one. I have my baby, so I got to think of her too.
How do you do it, Superwoman? How do you manage to be strong and at the same time not so strong that you limit your daughter from being Roxanne?
It took a good few years for us to finally see eye to eye, but my mom and I, we have finally become a team. It's a team effort now.
Take time to know each other. Take time to talk about the issue.
He'd say, Mom, you're not going to make it if you don't calm down. He would talk to me, and I'd say, okay, I'm going to be fine.
You're the closest person, and they trust you, and they know that you love them, and they love you, and that's why they're taking it out on you. But they need you, and everything around them is just collapsing. So just be there.
You can't run from epilepsy. You can't run from your family, because those are the most important people around you. And every time I open my eyes, who's there? My mom.
Not only did he teach me how to be stronger, he taught me how to be wiser.
If I could give an advice to a teenager and a parent of a teenager, it would be sit down, talk, understand what's going on with each other, talk to each other.
One of the important things is to find time to get away from it. Otherwise, it becomes your entire life.
I love to paint, and it was one of the things that I was able to do to relax and to get my mind off of what was going on.
This is about the time that, these are watercolors, and that's what I was doing at 96 when Pat, I guess, was in his worst stage. And I would do this to relax.
On a daily basis, it's more guitar. I'll go downstairs into the basement, and it's, an hour or two worth of an escape during a day. The real passion, the thing I really love to do is cook. We would use it, when we were going through the worst of it as a way to take some of the pressure off, some of the tension off.
Food and friends was sort of like the thing, well,
but that we could do here.
yeah, and Pat, we know where he was.
Yeah.
There'd be other kids there. And
So we'd have people here.
We would just try very hard to be as normal as possible. And Bill would be cooking, Ron would be helping.
Ronnie and Bill, they cook. Carol and I would,
Eat.
And eat. And she was just there through all the hard times.
Pat came up to the table, I remember this, and he was talking, and it was a high table. And then I just remember he went right down, banged his head, his chin on the table. And then so I remember Mary saying, we can't do this anymore, we can't do this anymore. And I said, yes, we can.
Have a good day. All right, I'll see you after school then. When he was little and he was walking to school, I didn't walk with him. I would stand up for a little bit and then you'd see him. But gradually, it's sort of like, he's gonna fall and he's gonna have one, but you want to have him feel as though I can handle it. I'm gonna have to.
We treat him as normally as we possibly can and give him the support so that he is confident enough to deal with the situations he's going to have to deal with.
When Pat, we'd use his dad. It would be like sometimes we'd be at the park tossing around a baseball, and then he'd start to have one, and then most that I've done is just pretty much stand around and wait it out while his dad would help and stuff. And then recently, I've just been he's been able to just lean on me sometimes, just so he doesn't fall over.
It's to friendship.
Here I am, arriving at my daughter's house.
I had my mother, so my mother was there to support both of us in trying to keep our relationship going.
When Mary and Bill wanted to go out of an evening, I would come up, because I only lived down the street, so I would come up and I would take care of the house.
We would go out to dinner and try not to talk about it because, which is hard to do.
I would do the laundry, take the cleaning machine out if she needed anything done, clean up, and take care of Alexandra.
We stepped up to the plate together, worked really hard together, and found a way through it. And then, so I think it did pull us together as a family.
Sure, it'll do good. Yeah.
When I go to school, I will call him all the time.
Probably gonna be like, what?
Definitely keep in touch and always come visit. I'm not going far away.
What? It's gonna be weird, Allie.
When I leave?
Yeah, I'll be like an only child.
No.
Yeah, what am I gonna do Sunday?
You can't take my room, though.
Oh, I can take your room.
No.
I can take it.
No,
I'm taking
there's no way.
Just try real hard to take care of your needs so that you can take care of their needs.
You keep your husband and yourself connected in some way. Try to get out. Just have somebody there for your teen who you trust.
When I had an opportunity, I will sit down and write anything that came to my mind. I will play all kinds of music. I will go from Mexican music to opera because I was so desperate. I didn't have anybody to talk to.
I read things that were funny. I read books and I laugh a lot, and I watch a lot of movies that were very funny. And I would just be laughing like some crazy person. And that would make me feel better.
I use humor as a defense mechanism, as a lot of people do. But I would joke, I'd say, Lauren's such a great kid. She had it right under the kitchen wall phone. I held her with one hand. I dialed 911 with the other hand. Yeah.
I had a very good psychiatrist friend that I used to go with, that I used to see on a regular basis. And she would counsel me, and that was my outlet where I wouldn't have to burden anyone with my problems, but I could just let it out during these sessions. You know, I would go in there and cry until, and then I would feel better and just go on home and deal with things, because that's what you have to do.
I gave a lot of my burden to God. I'm a true believer, and I don't think I could have gone through all these if it hadn't been for God.
If I can tell anyone out there in the world that are newly diagnosed, information is the best thing that you can have. It's the antidote.
Parents need to be very educated in this whole process, and they need to know what are seizures, what are the treatments, what are the side effects of medications.
I had the dimmest, darkest superstitions about what epilepsy was. I really did not know what it was.
There are an awful lot of resources out there. For instance, the Epilepsy Foundation, and there's as soon as you talk to your doctor, there's always leaflets, pamphlets. There's a lot of resources out there. Take advantage of them if you can.
Don't be afraid of information. Don't be afraid of technology. Michael has a vagus nerve stimulator, and it's cut his seizures by at least 2/3. And it works.
Knowledge is power. It helps you deal, it helps you cope, it helps you separate the myth, and there are huge myths that surround epilepsy. There's all sorts of wrong information out there.
Do research, don't believe everything you hear.
She's very close to my mom. As a matter of fact, I'm always teasing her about it.
My grandma, she's spoiled my mom. She's like, every time she sees my mom, hi, mija, hi, what are you doing? And she talks about how we are and how am I doing? I'm doing all right? And am I taking my medicine? And are we doing okay? Do we need anything? We're like, no, we don't need nothing, Grandma.
She's always been a mom to me all the time. She's helped me a lot with my girls.
I love her a lot because I thought she was one of my daughters, and she was young when she get married.
It's very important for family members to help out, or even just to give advice. That's good.
Patricia would call me. She'd tell me Roxanne is tired and she's got a real bad headache. And I tell her, well, massage her hands, or, just keep it dark. Try not to get her to move too much. And I helped her out a lot. She'd call me all the time for help.
Roxanne, she's already 16. She'll be 17. So she knows what she needs to do. She needs to do it. Be responsible, because she's going to be closer to 18. When you turn 18, that's when they're really going out to the world. So I told Roxanne, you got to be responsible for yourself. Make sure you take your medication. You know you got to take it regardless you like it or not. You have restrictions in certain things. When you turn 18, the kids usually go wild. She knows she can't drink. She knows she can't be over there doing other things that kids can do.
I want to be a lawyer, so I'm studying to be a lawyer. And I want to go to college, and that's where I'm going right after I graduate.
The resiliency that you see in Roxanne's life is something that it almost seemed like it's second nature to her, because she's seen so much of it in her mother.
God gives me strength. I pray to God every day before I go to sleep. And that's it, really.
I think you need to be open about it. Again, you have enough stress as it is without trying to hide it.
I picked and chose who I told. Then as I got older, I told everybody.
She was embarrassed at first. She didn't want to wear her ID bracelet. I told her, well, if I buy you charms to make it a charm bracelet, would that help?
It's a great conversational starter, but I'm serious. You get it out right there. You get it out. People will look at you and say, what's that? You go, I have epilepsy. And if they don't like you, they walk away and say, okay, fine with them. We're going to go somewhere else. But trust me, you need this thing.
I guess it kind of brought out my real friends, and it was just kind of sad because all these people I had hung out with for so long weren't really my real friends.
I lost a lot of friends, you know, because of his illness, but they wasn't friends because they left. Anybody that abandoned ship wasn't a shipmate. That's how I look at it.
The worst thing to me was, okay, when we tried to hide it. When Michelle tried to hide it and we tried to hide it. And as soon as we came out and we told our friends and we made her understand to tell her friends, then we found some people among her friends that could handle her when she had a seizure. So she could go out, she could go to the movies without us, or she could go out somewhere else. But the key is to come out with it.
Once we stopped being ashamed and told people and say, you know, if Guillermo has a seizure, don't hold him down, do this for him. Then we started getting like a little army of people who Guillermo was going to be able to be safe with.
It's very important as a parent to reach out for help because it's scary.
One of the things that's helped me survive is that I'm not ashamed of saying I need help.
We were very isolated. We didn't know about support groups and other things. And it's really great to be able to find other people with problems that we can find out the things that we're experiencing are common.
I know when we went to our first meeting, I just go, oh my God, where were all these people? You know, that many years ago, I just felt like crying because you had all these people talking about the same kinds of things that we were going through. And just to be able to bring it out, to talk to someone and not be scared that they were going to look at me strange.
In the support groups that I facilitate, I always try to create an environment where they know it's not my support group, but it's their home.
Don't keep it to yourselves. Get out there, share your situation with other people, and you'll be surprised how many people out there have the same thing going on for them.
They understood Memo, they understood what I was going through, and they told us, hey, this is normal.
No, you're not alone out there. That's what I would say. You see the sparkle at the end of the tunnel when you meet somebody else or another couple or another person with epilepsy.